the state opening of Parliament, and I thought I would stream it and comment. It's normally good for a laugh. I'm on a slight delay of about 10 minutes. Speaker's just warning MPs not to break the rules. Yeah, as I say, this is normally good for a laugh. The tradition is that the King's speech is proposed by a has-been MP and seconded by an up-and-coming MP on the government benches, and they're expected to make a few jokes. So hopefully it should be funny.
Monday the 18th of May, back in business to create economic growth.
To move that a humble address be presented to His Majesty as follows. Most gracious Sovereign, we, Your Majesty's most dutiful and loyal subjects of the Commons of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, in Parliament...
This is the Labour MP Naresh Shah.
Our humble thanks to Your Majesty for the gracious speech which Your Majesty has addressed to both houses of Parliament. It would be remiss of me not to say a few words about the outstanding state visit by His Majesty to the United States.
Hear, hear.
Oratory, remarkable wit and genuine statesmanship from His Majesty, presenting President Trump with the original brass bell inscribed with his name before he was even born from the Second World War submarine HMS Trump, suggesting that if they needed to give us a ring was a masterstroke in diplomacy. His Majesty returned, very humbly of course, having secured the lifting of trade barriers on Scotch whisky. Given the performance, I was rather worried His Majesty might come back with the 13 colonies as well. It is a huge honour for me and my constituents of Bradford West to move the royal address. This is the second time...
13 colonies, of course, being a reference to the original 13 British colonies, which formed the nucleus of the United States. It's quite a good joke.
It is a huge honour for me and my constituents of Bradford West to move the royal address. In 1959, the then member for Bradford West, Arthur Tiley, seconded the royal address. When the Chief Whip called me about today, my first reaction, like many across this house, when the Chief called, is uh-oh, what about this? But then that uh-oh soon turned into, oh my days, no way, with the biggest smile ever. I remember clearly listening to the speeches by my honourable friends and members for Bootle, as well as Vauxhall and Camberwell Green, the last time this occasion happened, and thinking, now that is an honour. Had I known God was listening, I'd have asked him to give you a million, Mr. Speaker. In fact, Mr. Speaker, had I known not always voting with the government also works, I might have always... I am indeed humbled and honoured, primarily for being trusted by the people of Bradford West, for placing their faith in me and sending me to this place. Given this opportunity to be the first ever Muslim to propose the royal address in this chamber, and of course, seeing the meltdown of the far right online, even an act of domination. In light of this, I must assure them this is not a takeover. I must state it is, as per convention, a joke, but it seems... On a more serious note, Mr. Speaker, over the last few months, I have had the opportunity to tell my own story, a story of my life and the challenges I faced growing up. I often pinch myself whilst in this chamber questioning, how could a girl who lived the life I lived be given such an honour to represent her city in the mother of all parliaments? Mr. Speaker, it is because, despite the challenges we may face as a nation and the differences in approaches we present across this House, I know without a doubt that as someone who comes from the ethnic, religious and socio-economic background that I came from, whose entire life flashed before her, I would never have been given such an honour in any other country than this one. My own country, our country. For me, there is no nation greater than ours. We are the greatest nation on earth, and I am a true patriot. Raised in abject poverty, living in a single room because we couldn't afford to heat the whole house, and suffering tuberculosis as a result, I understand firsthand what this means. Therefore, I welcome
You were lucky.
from the government to prioritise addressing the cost of living crisis.
We used to dream of living in a one-bedroom house
The instability across the
with
world.
TV.
The plight of the Palestinians, the war in Ukraine, the instability British in the Strait of Hormuz, with colleagues and the growing global threats for which we. Closer to home, I had the honour to serve on the bill, the Assisted Dying Bill Committee, something beyond party lines, where I had the opportunity to work with colleagues from across the House, including the work I did with the Honourable Member for East Wiltshire.
Okay, we're back with the state opening of
Whilst
Parliament.
I didn't eventually support the bill,
Naz
I
Shah
paid
still
tribute
speaking. I'm
to
now
the
on
members
a,
of Ian Spen for her work, commitment and passion.
again, about a 10-minute
Talking
delay.
about beyond party lines, Mr. Speaker, I noted with interest, as I'm sure the whole nation did too, the previous Duchy of Lancaster, the noble Lord Gold's rather peculiar fascination with our Home Secretary. He actually confessed to browsing the internet for her images.
This is a reference to Michael Gove's recent confession that he has a big crush on the Home Secretary, as Mahmood.
Thankfully, Mr. Speaker, knowing our Home Secretary, as I do, I'm confident that this is not the kind of cross-party mischief she would reciprocate.
Uh-huh.
But I do have
Interesting.
a guilty pleasure of my own. And no, it's not a Tory. Unfortunately, for my calorie count, it is custard and cake. I blame Godfrey and Sharon in the tea room for their unwavering encouragement to indulge sparingly. I'm proud to be the first woman elected to Parliament for the constituency of Bradford West. A constituency with a history of extraordinary women who broke every barrier that patriarchy put in front of them. The Bronte sisters changed English literature forever, but had to use men's names to publish their writings.
Actually, they were androgynous names, weren't they? Currer Bell, Acton Bell, etc.
The women of Manningham Mills walked out into the cold, changing our political landscape forever. Margaret Macmillan pioneered free school meals, and they were trialled in 1904 in the school I attended, Green Lane Primary, leading to the Education Act of 1906, which cemented free school meals into our history. And Barbara Castle, shaped by Bradford streets and schools, went on to write equal pay into law.
Well, I thought that was a good. That was.
Serve alongside equally formidable women with the member of Bradford South and indeed the member.
A lovely tribute to Yorkshire women in our history.
Something that produces women who will not be told. I promise this House, I have zero intention of breaking with that. If today many great changes made by successive Labour governments, none of it would have been possible without the women who led the Manningham Mill strike, which then led to the founding of the Independent Labour Party, conceived and formed in Bradford West. It was in Bradford that a man named Keir first took the chair of the Labour movement.
Keir Hardie, of
And
course.
despite 130 years, 2 world wars, and roughly 47 leadership elections, the party remains in the hands of a Keir.
Wes Streeting was looking straight at the camera at that point.
Don't know how to fight on.
So I just want to rewind that and get the joke.
Prime Minister, nobody can say that you don't know how to fight on.
I guess that's true.
I could not make this speech without recognising David Hockney, a boy from a
Moving on, changing the subject.
paintings around the city in a crowd. David went on to become the world's most famous living artist. David once said that if you look closely, Bradford is a city with magic. I don't know whether he was looking into the future, literally describing Bradford's magician Dynamo, Zayn Malik's magical music, or our leg-spinning, World Cup winning magic of our very own Adil Rashid. But Bradford is, without question, a place of wonders. Bradford is also a place of culture. The jewel in the crown, as it is often referred to, is the Bradford Literature Festival. Now one of the largest of the UK literature festivals and the largest of its kind throughout Europe, pairing excellence with access for those who would otherwise be excluded from culture. In 2025, Bradford was proud to be named UK City of Culture, home to a rich, diverse population built on the back of a historic title as the wool capital of the world. In the 1850s, German Jewish merchants came to Bradford and built the magnificent warehouses of what we now call Little Germany, helping to make Bradford a global trading city.
Globing.
And a proud home of the oldest synagogue in the north. A synagogue that recently the Muslim community stepped in to save when the roof was about to cave in, illustrating the relationship within the Muslim and Jewish community in Bradford. A century later, men from Azad, Jammu and Kashmir and India and Pakistan arrived in the 50s and 60s, working tireless night shifts to keep the mills running, ensuring Britain's economy continued to flourish after the Second World War. Each generation of newcomers didn't just come to Bradford, they built Bradford. Mr. Speaker, chicken tikka masala might be the UK's national dish, but I must inform the whole House that you have not had a curry until you have had a Bradford curry. Whether it is the legendary family naan on cheese invented by the late King of Prussia,
As a resident of Birmingham, I have to dispute this, but you carry on.
Agra, Mumtaz, Jinnah, my Lahore, or any one of the hundreds of restaurants across the city, Bradford does curry like nowhere else. The curries are that good, they even defy the current Manjaro jam. A note to the Health Secretary, he may well have to develop a stronger solution. I recommend Bradford's curry to all members of this House. Now that Bradford has a few reform councillors, perhaps the member for Clapton, who I see is not in his place, could pay a visit and treat them to a good curry, followed by a pint brewed in Bradford. In fact, given the size of his recent gift that we are now all well aware of, he could probably take half of Bradford out and still be left with plenty of change. Bradford is, Mr. Speaker, the youngest city in the United Kingdom. It has been named the most entrepreneurial too. Morrison's grew from a market stall in our city to a household name. It's the place where I promise this House there is no poverty of aspiration, talent or ambition. But the poverty
So she's doing a good job now to list the government's
giving our Labour
incredible achievements.
the power and flexibility to invest in local jobs, new homes and improving skills. At Bradford City Station, 2.1 billion investment in transport for the city region.
Pointing to
West Yorkshire to deliver mass transit, better
pointing to advances in her constituency on the ground.
all of this is pumping confidence into a city ready for investors to benefit from its untapped potential. Northern Powerhouse Rail is not a nice to have. It is the difference between Bradford's young people building their futures at home or building them somewhere else. On this occasion, I would also like to pay my thanks to all the House staff across the estate who ensure that Parliament can play the role that it does. They are hugely deserving of our appreciation for everything they do. And outside of this place, the security services and our police forces who keep us safe with the ever-increasing risks and threats to our democracy. Given the magnitude of this moment, I would also like to emphasise the huge weight and burden of responsibility on our shoulders. When we speak in this chamber, it carries meaning and impact. It impacts that boy who takes off his kippah, the girl who removes her hijab, fearing for their safety because their race and religion has become a political football. An attack on anyone or anyone's place of worship, be it a synagogue, a mosque, a church, a temple, a gurdwara, or of any kind of religious institution, is an attack on our British way of life. We must strengthen our communities against the rising tide of nationalism and populism. In a world ever more dangerous, an online world ever more toxic, society more than ever needs unity, calmness and leadership to make our country the best it can be. The burden of responsibility falls on all our shoulders, and it has never been greater. Mr. Speaker, it is also convention to part with words of wisdom for those who are slightly newer to this place. With that in mind, I simply say this: nurture the pragmatism of being an elected representative of the people who have put their trust in you and sent you here, but never, never forget the passion of an activist. Keep that fire burning, because it is indeed that passion that will sustain you and carry you through. Because sometimes it gets difficult here. Mr. Speaker, a King's Speech is meant to be a fresh start. Parliament's version of clearing the kitchen table, making room for the work ahead, and gathering the family round, reminding ourselves what the country has sent us here to do. As honourable members may know, I believe in a full table. You make space. Hospitality matters in my home. You listen. You serve people properly. But good hospitality and politics itself is more than who speaks first or indeed the loudest. It's about noticing the quiet ones, those who may be less organised, not as powerful, but nonetheless equally, if not more important, the voiceless whose voices we need to become. Mr. Speaker, for someone like me, who spent her formative years fighting a campaign to release her mother from prison, who did not have a formal education beyond the age of 12, spelling, grammar, and parliamentary language and phrases don't come naturally. Forced into a marriage at 15, forced to live a life with hearing aids, lugging a black bin liner of belongings as a homeless teenager, left all alone as a guardian to a younger brother and sister, without a shoulder of support or stability in life.
Oh.
Attempting suicide as I couldn't see a way out from my despair. Yet here I stand.
Lovely. Very good.
With the world's eyes watching the state opening of Parliament on this momentous occasion, given the privilege of this moment. If this was not my story, I would only believe it to be fiction. But the truth is, there can be a light at the end of a tunnel. Because as I believe, and my life personifies for me, After hardship comes ease. I stood in this chamber for the first time and pinched myself. I still do. Where someone like me can end up like somewhere like here, representing the city I love, in the mother of all parliaments, Bradford and my country gave me everything. I intend to spend every day in this house returning the favour. It is an honour of my life to move the loyal address on behalf of the people of Bradford West. I commend the motion to the House.
Well, I thought that was a great speech. Westminster is normally referred to as the mother of Parliament, isn't it, as opposed to the mother of all Parliament. The expression "the mother of all" things has its own history, but we won't go into that. No, I thought that was a good speech. I thought that was very clearly partly inspired by King Charles III's speech to Congress the other week, which she mentioned, as well as his speech later that night. And I wonder if a little bit of that inspiration came in when she was talking about the importance of the words that are spoken in Parliament, echoing the King's words to Congress in a funny sort of mirror image of the King's words to Congress when he quoted Lincoln from the Gettysburg Address, what the King called Lincoln's magisterial Gettysburg Address. What was the quote? The world may little note what we say, but what matters is what we do. Something along those lines. Paraphrasing, of course. But maybe I would have liked her to echo that a bit more strongly and talk about the importance of Parliament's words. Words matter, words can hurt, etc. And she made that point clearly. But also, perhaps if she'd said it really matters what Parliament does, you know, I think that would have been a good way of bringing the speech, giving the speech some shape and focusing minds on the importance of the moment, which after all is about precisely what Parliament does, i.e. Pass legislation according to a programme. But yeah, that was good. I like that. I like these occasions in Parliament because it does give these backbench MPs the chance to do a speech which is personal and shows some character. No, I thought that was very good, very good. I think someone's got to follow it up now, so we'll see how that is. Skip forward a few seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is an absolute honour to second this humble address. Can I start by thanking my honourable friend from Bradford West for her incredibly powerful speech. And
Chris Vince.
can I echo her words about the importance of communities coming together to tackle that that divisive politics that we've seen so often, and thank her for that. Can I also echo her comments about
British Labour and
the
Co-op.
incredible job that they do to
Labour
support all of
Harlow.
us. Following my
Former
recent
councillor.
London marathon run, it was suggested by two of the doorkeepers that the only reason Sebastian Sewar ran it in less than 2
he's
hours
one of the new
was
intake.
for me talking about
Something like
Harlow.
that. So, he's the up and coming
And as a big fan of curries myself, I look forward to having the opportunity to sample one in Bradford in the future.
the up and coming nominee, as it were.
Mr. Speaker.
So a joke about Essex people eating curry.
This is a unique opportunity. I
Yes, it is.
protect the records, and I'm the first MP for Harlow to have the opportunity to do so. My mind you, Harlow has only been a constituency since the 1970s, and I'm not going to count the previous MP, Winston Churchill, who represented what is now Harlow when it came under Epping. Mr. Speaker, it may be the first time that a Harlow MP has delivered this speech, but I believe this opportunity has come at the right time. When I reflect on the hurdles ahead, a lot can be learned by looking at Harlow's past and looking at Harlow's future. Mr. Speaker, I came about seconding a humble address, much like my humble friend, when I received a phone call from the Chief Whip on the train home. And like my humble friend and other members, I'm sure, across the House, the first thing I thought was, what have I done wrong? I thought perhaps, like some members across the House, and he misheard me when I said horned during a speech in this place. And I didn't much fancy explaining to him that I said horned, and not any other word that sounds like haunted, on a train that was full of my constituents. Thankfully, that was not the case. The Chief Whip told me there were certain traditions around the
Front bench having a
that the speech should be humorous and was not
guess they could do with
members'
one.
constituency as often as possible. This did sound like a good gig to me, to be fair. Now, I can't necessarily promise humour, although I'll give it a good go. But I can certainly promise that I will mention Harlow as often as possible. And for those listening at home, you may wish to count the number of times I do so. I believe the current count is 7. Is it 8? What do I do for a living? Harlow, Mr. Speaker, is never a dull place to represent. And members across the House will know Harlow once again bucked the national trend when it came to last week's local election result. We are getting quite good at that, even if it might not have been quite the way I would have liked. However, what it does show is the ambition for the people of Harlow to see their town improve and grow.
10.
Something that can only happen with this government's continued hint. The Chief Whip also told me there is a tradition to have an established MP propose the King's speech and for a bright young thing to second it. I have to say, Mr. Speaker, I'm not particularly bright. I'm not particularly young. But I'm definitely a thing. So I can absolutely claim 1/3 of that description. I actually think
Where's Streeting like that, Joe?
asked me to give this speech because he was aware that on the last
Giving
day
a,
of
doing a
term,
Ted Heath
I
laugh.
failed to achieve my 400th contribution to
As
Hansard.
I say, Mikey Arwood Ted
So
Heath
look,
laugh.
I want to thank everybody for being here so I can now do so. And I look forward in this parliamentary term making a further 400 contributions with multiple references about Harlow, my mother's sterling career in HMRC, and the fact I may have previously been a maths teacher. But there is more though. I think we would all recognise
Ed Miliband and Hilary Benn there, watching from the by the Speaker's chair.
dangerous and volatile time, which, like honourable friends and honourable members, I've spent a great deal of time thinking about. It's during this turmoil that I've taken the time to reflect on what it means to be British, those British values. What our country is about. What is the real Britain? We say Britishness more and more, but it can mean any number of things to any number of people.
This is true.
When I think about what it means to be British, I think about my recent experience running the London Marathon. And, just to be clear, I am not referring to when the Honourable Member for Basman and Billericay with his Union flag shorts on overtook me on mile 17, just like at the metaphorical wall. I have looked up, he's 2 years younger than me, so I've got this. During the marathon,
Don't know who he's referring to, a Tory I would imagine, pointed across the
London,
benches,
I saw neither hate nor division.
across the
I
chamber.
saw unity. I saw people coming together to cheer on perfect strangers in their shared endeavour. I saw Gordon Ramsay randomly heckle me to carry on. And, Mr. Speaker, I even got supported by a Man United supporter. I saw everyone, Mr. Speaker, man or woman, black or white, gay or straight, all laying the 26.2 mile course. And by the way, that 0.2 miles at the end is only made possible by those supporters. Mr. Speaker, that is the Britain I know. That is the Britain that I love. And And that sense of supporting one another, of coming together as a community in hardship and celebration, is alive and well in Harlow. In fact, it is baked into the very foundation of Harlow when it first conceived as part of the Newtown Revolution under the first majority Labour government in 1945.
Yep.
Harlow remains a strong community today, and when I think of Britishness, I think of Rainbow Services, which supports projects across Harlow by getting young people to build infrastructure for their community. I think of Streets to Homes, the homes charity I worked at, which supports the most vulnerable in our society, and I think about the Michael Roberts Charity Foundation, which runs the local food bank. As I mentioned, Harlow itself is a post-war new town, designed by Sir Frederick Gibbon to be a place of neighbourhoods and communities. It was built as a solution to the problem of overcrowding in London. Harlow sought to alleviate this pressure while keeping communities tightly knit together. You can still see remnants of that today. People from Walthamstow move into the Stow in Harlow, giving people a fresh start in life with all the comforts of their community. To this day, Harlow is one community built by lots of smaller and close communities. Communities like Potter Street, Bush Fair, Church Langley and Little Parndon. As Harlow grew into its new town, so too did its pioneering spirit. And just 2 weeks ago, I was lucky enough to recognise one of those pioneers by unveiling a blue pack in memory of Harlow-raised scientist Dr. George Hockham, one of the key brains behind the invention of the fibre optic cable. Fibre optic cable, created in Harlow, revolutionised modern communication, not just in Britain, but across the world. For me, George Hockham and many others like him from Harlow could be an inspiration for Harlow's next generation, a generation that deserves a government on their side. I think of inspirations like Professor Hannah Fry and Paralympian Anne Strike. These inspirations are a reminder of what it means to be British, to achieve so much and to have such a proud community agenda. I've attended my fair share of community events, Mr. Speaker, although I'm not convinced it was a great idea to run the Matching Village 10K a week after the London Marathon. Didn't see the member for Villa Kim Dustin there just.
I'm about 20 minutes behind now. I'm going to fast forward some of this, I think.
From one of my former teachers.
Try and catch up a bit.
We should always remember, it's a marathon and not a sprint.
That the humble address be presented to His Majesty as follows. Most gracious Sovereign, we, Your Majesty's most dutiful and loyal subjects, the Commons of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, in Parliament I now call the Leader of the Opposition, Right Honourable Kemi Bennett.
Kemi B in the house.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This King's speech is taking place against the most extraordinary backdrop. We knew the carriages were booked, the horses were ready, the King was coming, but would we have a Prime Minister? So, Mr. Speaker, it is such an honour to be the Leader of the Opposition who gets to respond today. May I start by congratulating the proposer and seconder of the Loyal Address on their excellent speeches. And can I also congratulate the whips for finding 2 backbenchers prepared to support the Prime Minister at this time.
Well, we know there are over 100. It's a silly
The
joke.
Honourable Member for Bradford West gave a moving and funny speech. I especially appreciated her comments about black and brown faces on TV, or as my children say, oh look, it's Mummy again. She only touched lightly on the fact that she is someone who has faced one of the most challenging childhoods imaginable, and yet through the strength of her character has made it to this place. She's made of tough stuff, and that is something we need more of in this house. Anyone who can boast of chewing up and spitting out George Galloway in an election is clearly formidable. I also congratulate the member for Harlow.
Raising
money for St. Clair Hospice. Hearted speech.
Yeah, it's not bad. I don't like the way Kemi Badenoch laughs at her own jokes. I find that very annoying.
It's clearly formidable. I also congratulate the member for Harlow on successfully delivering a humorous and warm-hearted speech. As he noted, he is my constituency neighbour, and he also, yes, did run the London Marathon last month, raising money for St. Clair Hospice, which cares for both our constituents, and so I would like to take this opportunity to thank him for doing that. So I've become a big fan of his after listening to his speech, especially after he was so generous in his comments about the Harlow Conservatives' successful election campaign and my councillor's outstanding work regenerating the town centre. And I would say to him, if things on that side of the house are getting a bit much, he would be very welcome to cross the floor and help Conservatives carry on that work. Mr. Speaker, I think we can say that the proposer and seconder of the loyal address have upheld the best traditions of the House. I would, of course, like to pay tribute to His Majesty the King. His Majesty has served through a period of great personal difficulty, and throughout he has exemplified the virtues of grace, dignity, humour, modesty, and resolve in the face of adversity. Virtues which were on full display during his hugely successful state visit to the United States. And I'm sure the whole House will have admired his skillful speech to Congress. It was a speech full of the wisdom and courage needed for our times. Of course, we would never have got to hear it if we'd listened to some people in this House who called for the King's visit to be cancelled.
This is true.
Thank goodness no one listens to the leader of the Liberal Democrats.
Fair enough, Kemi. I don't object to that. Jab. Don't object
As
to
for
that at
the
all.
Prime Minister, when he was young, he called for the end of the monarchy.
I mean, Ed's a
I'm
jolly
glad
decent
the right
chap.
honourable and learned gentleman has seen the error of his ways, because previous King Charleses took a much dimmer view of that kind of thing.
Good point.
I'm only sorry that this
Didn't do
new
them any good,
appreciation
did
of the monarchy and our country's traditions have come too late, because this is the first parliamentary session ever without the hereditary peers. And their departure will be keenly felt. And our parliament will be poorer for it. Especially, Mr. Speaker, when you consider some of the people that Labour have been replacing them with. People who've already had the whip removed before they've even taken their seats. Mr. Speaker, I know the convention is for this to be a light-hearted debate. But as I've already said, this is a highly unusual moment. The Prime Minister is in office, but not in power. Everyone is trying to...
That's an old saying, isn't it?
It's not all right. In the past 48 hours...
I think that was
nearly
Blair on Major,
100
wasn't it?
Labour MPs have called for the Prime Minister to resign. 4 ministers have quit. It is clear his authority has gone, and that he will not be able to deliver what little there is in this King's speech. This is a government less than 2 years in office, which has already run out of ideas and run out of road. So how did we get here? There is a great line in the musical Hamilton, Mr. Speaker. Winning is easy, governing is harder. Everything that has gone wrong in Labour's first 2 years comes back to one problem.
Those words could come back to haunt her, who knows?
No plan. They did not understand the difference between winning an election and governing a country. It was very easy to make promises in opposition, promises to freeze council tax, promises to take £300 off energy bills, promises to the WASPy women. Hundreds of Labour MPs took photos with them to post on their Facebook pages and their websites and their election leaflets, but at no point did they bother to think, how would they deliver any of it? They didn't start into opposition thinking deeply about the country's problems. They assumed that governing in the 2020s would be like governing in the 1990s. But it isn't. Britain is facing new structural problems. We have an aging... Mr. Speaker, they'll shout at me. I know they can't wait to get back to their plotting, but it's quite important that we hear what is going to be said. Because we have an aging population, a falling birth rate, and a welfare bill that is spiralling out of control. We have an information revolution in the shape of AI that threatens to unravel the world of work as we know it. And the cost of energy is driving industry out of the country. Labour were taken by surprise that we are living in a more competitive and increasingly hostile world. Their manifesto was just a set of misleading promises. They promised no new taxes on working people. Failed. They promised to crack down on illegal immigration. Failed. They promised to tread more lightly on people's lives. Epic fail. They made promises without knowing how anything works. Let's look at housing. Just after Labour took office, when I was Shadow Housing Secretary, I stood at this dispatch box and warned the former Deputy Prime Minister that she had been stitched up, that the 1.5 million new homes Labour promised had been hung like a millstone around her neck. I knew that they wouldn't be able to meet that target because they didn't understand why more houses weren't being built. Sure enough, they are already more than a third down on their target and well behind what we delivered. Of course, Mr. Speaker, in the end, it wasn't 1.5 million homes that did for the former Deputy Prime Minister. It took just one flat in Brighton to bring her down. Mr. Speaker, it is so obvious. It is so obvious. I know they don't want to hear it, Mr. Speaker, but this, I know they don't want to hear it. Look at them. They are so arrogant. They want to lead our country. They can't even lead a coup. It is so obvious, Mr. Speaker, that they cannot handle being in government. They cannot handle it. They hate the responsibility. They hate having to take tough decisions. They prefer scratching the itches that they had in opposition. Giving inflation-busting pay rises to the unions. 28% for the doctors who are still striking. Nearly 2 years, they are still striking. Handing out more benefits to the only people who will...
I just want to comment that this question over the housing target is really a point of consistency from Kemi Badenoch, because that is something that she's saying, that there's no way the government can meet its housing target because it's misunderstood how to achieve it, or something along those lines. So yeah, just a point of consistency there from Badenoch.
Still vote for them because Labour don't understand that poverty isn't created by a lack of benefits, it's created by a failing economy. Mr. Speaker, we spent the last session listening to Labour MPs telling us how great everything was going. No doubt we will hear lots of grandstanding speeches this week telling us what a fantastic job they did. How absurd, given the number of them demanding that the Prime Minister stands down. We counted, Mr. Speaker, there were 24 U-turns in that first parliamentary session. Winter fuel, family farms, grooming gangs, welfare reforms, social media for under-16s, day one workers' rights, the list goes on and on. And every single one of these U-turns had at its core a single issue: the Prime Minister's total lack of judgment. This is a man who, faced with a crisis of vision, charisma, and electoral success, sends for Gordon Brown. Leadership, Mr. Speaker, is about having a vision for this country. It's about having the courage to take difficult decisions, persuading your party that those difficult decisions will pay off in time, and taking responsibility for your mistakes. He has failed on every count. We've had pillars, promises, 4-point plans, 5-point plans, missions, none of it achieving anything. Reset after reset after reset. Even if the Prime Minister does last long enough in office to deliver this gracious speech, the bills announced today do not remotely come close to what the country needs. I know that they're chuckling, Mr. Speaker. Not a single one of them actually dares to intervene on me in the speech. I do, Mr. Speaker, however,
there's going to be an intervention now,
I
presumably.
do want to welcome the government's ongoing support
Now she's
to Ukraine
laid down
and
that
its
gauntlet,
commitment
someone's got to pick it
NATO.
up.
In this increasingly
okay.
dangerous world, there is infrastructure such as new nuclear.
So,
Too many
yeah,
governments have been frustrated.
let's talk about defence.
I also want to be generous to the Home Secretary, because I can see that
To
she
skip over that,
is
and
trying to do something
she's moving on to
about
home
illegal immigration.
affairs.
But the elephant in the room is that she almost certainly won't be Home Secretary for much longer. Sadly, no one else in the Labour Party looks remotely interested in bringing down illegal immigration. The rest of this offering in the King's Speech, Mr. Speaker, makes it clear that they have learnt no lessons from their mistakes in government so far. All we have is a load of re-announced policies, hounding our brave veterans through the courts, legislating for digital ID, a policy they told us they dropped, banning trail hunting,
yes,
which is
they did, didn't
more
they?
class war that makes
Good point.
no one's life better, scrapping NHS England, something the Prime Minister announced 14 months ago. But then I suppose the Health Secretary has been a bit distracted lately, hasn't he? Yeah, hasn't he? Yeah. He's chuntering now. Why don't you just do your job? Do your job. Even worse, Mr. Speaker, is what isn't in the gracious speech. There's no point in him giving me dirty looks. We all know what he's been up to. You know. Even worse, Mr. Speaker, is what isn't in the gracious speech. There is no defence readiness bill because apparently it isn't ready. Where are the plans for welfare reform? There are none because Labour MPs blocked them. Where is the plan to make savings? There isn't one because Labour don't know how to make savings. They only know how to spend money, other people's money. Where is the plan to support businesses? There isn't one because they don't understand that it is business that creates growth, not government. They have no answers to what really matters, the problems that must be solved to get Britain working again. Now, Mr. Speaker, I will say the realisation, Mr. Speaker, that their legacy is just going to be... Now, they can complain as much as they like. I wasn't expecting this to be comfortable for them. They're the ones who are trying to unseat their Prime Minister. They should face that. The realisation, Mr. Speaker, that their legacy is just going to be breakfast clubs and Peter Mandelson. Labour MPs have been treated as disposable by their leadership. Sacked for backing the two-child benefit cap, sacked for opposing welfare changes, sacked for supporting farmers. The Prime Minister then U-turned on all of them. It must be tough when you take a principled stand and have the whip removed only for the government to confirm 6 months later that they agreed with you all along. It is no wonder, Mr. Speaker, that nearly 100 Labour MPs have now called for the Prime Minister to go. I know that there's another 100 who claim to be supporting. The starting gun for the Labour leadership contest has been fired. So let's have a look at the runners and riders. We have the Health Secretary, who accidentally sent his takeover plans to number 10, almost as incompetent as leaving them on the photocopier.
Reference to Robert Jenrick, of course. Yeah, that's quite... that's fair enough.
And we have...
Comparing Streeting to Ginger.
It's
quite clever.
Manchester, the Mayor of Manchester, Mr. Speaker, a self-proclaimed winner who has twice failed to win. The thing is totally illogical. Either Labour MPs agree with this agenda, in which case, why are they trying to get rid of the Prime Minister, or they don't agree with this agenda, in which case, what on earth are we all doing here? It is time to be brutally honest, Mr. Speaker. It is time to be brutally honest. The country is angry with the entire political class. All of us here. They are not happy with how we have been doing politics. It is time to get serious. I will give way. I will give way.
Finally.
The Right Honourable Lady seeks to lecture us on why it is that everyone
Emily
is so
Thornberry,
fed
is
up
it?
with the political class,
Yes.
but uses this opportunity not to lay out what the Conservatives would do.
I'm sure she's getting to that, Emily.
Something everybody on this side. Surely that's not the way to proceed.
Oh, I'm not done yet. There is plenty more coming. There is plenty more coming. And the Honourable Lady says she's getting a lecture. She is getting a lecture. She is getting a lecture. We're all getting a lecture because we are legislators of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, I think it's been commented, I think, was it Tony Benn and Margaret Thatcher have both been described as people who tried to be teachers of the House of Commons. It's clearly what Kemi Badenoch is trying to do. Yeah, she's trying to adopt that persona of being a teacher of the Commons. Work for other people.
And the Honourable Lady says she's getting a lecture. She is getting a lecture. She is getting a lecture. We're all getting a lecture because we are legislators of the United Kingdom. We were sent here to fix difficult things, not focus on our personal hobby horses, ranging from the petty to the puerile. I would say to members opposite, you don't need to be scared of the member for Clacton. I'm not. He is not the cause of Britain's problems. He is a symptom. No. He is. They are still, Mr. Speaker, they are still delusional. They are still delusional, Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry to puncture the bubble. I am not here to pretend that what is happening is not happening. They can all pretend and live in La La Land. I'm going to speak the truth to them. He is. They are still.
So you've got Richard Tice leaning forward, and you've got the Independent Alliance there. Corbyn is listening fairly intently, I think. Yeah, no, this is interesting. Let's carry on.
Mr. Speaker, they are still delusional. They are still delusional, Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry to puncture the bubble. I am not here to pretend that what is happening is not happening. They can all pretend and live in La La Land. I'm going to speak the truth to them. He is not the cause of Britain's problems. He is a symptom of the failure of the political class to focus on what matters. If you fix,
I mean, that's a fair comment, I suppose.
that people care about, he goes away. But I will give way. I will give way.
I'm very glad that she's given way, and she's saying that the honourable member for Clacton is a symptom of the problems. But would she agree that what she and he both have in common is that she very loosely agreed that we should race into war with America in Iran?
Oh, for heaven's sake.
And then just a week later, she thought maybe that's not such a good idea. And doesn't that prove why she and he are totally unsuitable on this side of the House?
Well, he's just repeating the Prime Minister's line on this. It's a good jab. See how she responds.
That was a nice try. It's not going to work. So you cannot solve
Well, no, you should address the point. You should at least address the point.
You cannot solve the problems of the country unless you have a plan to fix the civil service, the regulators, the legislative
Fine, carry on.
powers transferred from Parliament to the courts. Unless you fix structures of government, everyone will continue to fail. Britain is not ungovernable, and it is not broken. The reason we published an alternative King's Speech, I say to the Honourable Lady who was asking what the plan was, we have published an alternative King's Speech, is because we need to take tough decisions to get the country out of the mess we're in. It's not too late. Cutting wasteful spending. It is time to get serious. It is time to deliver. That is what the British public expect. That is what the Conservative Party will do.
I don't call the Prime Minister Sakista.
This is a big speech. I mean, this is the first time he's addressed the Commons since it's all been kicking off, of course. If anything, bigger than his speech to the nation, really, the other day. So,
Mr. Speaker, can I say what a pleasure it is to welcome the gracious speech of His Majesty and the radical agenda of this Labour government that will tear down the status quo that has failed working people and build a stronger, fairer Britain. Mr. Speaker, in light of the abhorrent attacks in Golders Green 2 weeks ago, let me start by briefly addressing that directly. It was the latest in a series of appalling anti-Semitic attacks, a normalisation of hatred that leads terrorists with warped Islamist ideologies to attack people they've never even met, simply because they are Jewish. A hatred that leads some to march calling for the murder of British Jews, and not to think there might be something wrong about that. Mr. Speaker, I've fought this hatred with my own political party. I've sat with others as they describe what it means for them. The fear, the sense that maybe they shouldn't wear something or do something that might reveal their Jewish identity, just in case. Mr. Speaker, it is time for the silent majority in this country to speak up, to stand with British Jews and defeat this hatred once and for all. Just as we will take on any form of hatred, from left or right, that seeks to divide us. Mr. Speaker, in the words of the gracious
Left, right or centre?
we will defend the British values of decency, tolerance and respect for difference under our common flag. Mr. Speaker, that is also why, when far-right agitators try to come here this Saturday to spread their poison of hatred, this Labour government will block them.
It's not only extremists who can foster hatred. I just make that point.
This time and every time. Mr. Speaker, the gracious speech was brilliantly proposed by my honourable friend, the member for Bradford West. Members across the House will have read her remarkable new book. Her list of endorsements is truly impressive, reaching well over 100 members. At last, Mr. Speaker, a list that we can all get behind. And Mr. Speaker, it's not the first time.
Wes Streeton's doing his Ted Heath after again.
Together.
Yeah, with the
She
shoulders.
united her city and many in this House when she sent George Galloway packing. And Mr. Speaker, the House will know that she is passionate about the measures this government is taking to lift 500,000 children out of poverty. As we all are on this side of the House, it is the pride of these benches. But the House might remember about her remarkable effort to get Marcus Rashford to champion free school meals and speak to pupils in her constituency. Now, most of us would have attempted this, Mr. Speaker, via the complex world of agents and managers. But my honourable friend had a different idea. She spoke to, as you do, the sister of Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, I can imagine the Ronaldo household is used to fielding some pretty big offers. Multi-million-pound transfers, billions in brand sponsorships, Piers Morgan calling for the 8th time that day. But I cannot imagine the confusion in the Ronaldo family when they heard my honourable friend say, not is Cristiano Ronaldo available, but can you give me the number of Marcus Rashford? I want to invite him to a primary school in Allerton and have some porridge in our free breakfast club. Mr. Speaker, on a much more serious note, I know the whole House will join me in paying tribute to my honourable friend's extraordinary courage, together with her mother, brother and sister. The story is utterly harrowing. Their strength to survive and the deep-rooted determination to fight for change is an inspiration for all of us and the very best of who we are. My honourable friend brings a lived experience to our politics, an empathy, a compassion, a humanity, an understanding of how easy it is to slip from a stable and secure life into one gripped by terrible deprivation. As she writes in her book, behind every word we utter must lie the foundation of real human experience. And in that spirit, I'm sure she will welcome the measures in this King's speech, which will deliver change grounded in that lived experience, and the tireless campaigners who have fought for justice, from remediation for those living in homes without safe cladding, to banning abusive conversion practices, from our mission to halve violence against women and girls, to the Hillsborough Law, which will bring justice for all. As she says so powerfully, equality, fairness and justice must belong to all of us. That is the driving purpose of our party, and her speech was in the finest traditions of this House. Mr. Speaker, His Majesty's speech was also brilliantly seconded by the honourable friend, the member from Harlow. Now, we are all proud to represent our constituencies, but few of us so relentlessly name our constituency as those who represent Harlow. Members from previous parliaments will remember my honourable friend's predecessor, Robert Halfon, who seemed to get Harlow into pretty well all of his contributions. But my honourable friend will not be outdone. He has inherited the great Harlow shoehorn, and indeed, he's already recognised across this House as a one-man tourist board. And I have to thank the member for Huntingdon, caught in Hansard, referring to my honourable friend as the trade envoy to Harlow. A rare example of a good idea from the opposition. Because no matter the debate, my honourable friend will find the local connection, from championing the role of Harlow College in climate change to praising the invention of fibre optic cables in Harlow, and telling us how Harlow doubled for Paris during an episode of The Crown. Mr. Speaker, I remember very clearly my honourable friend saying to me that wherever he goes in the world, he is always thinking about Harlow. Mr. Speaker is quite right. And can I congratulate him on his amazing fundraising at this year's London Marathon as a key election. I do understand his disappointment being overtaken by the right honourable member for Basildon and Billericay. All I can say is there is no shame in losing to someone whose training was so expensive that involved running all the way from northwest Durham to Billericay.
This is a joke about being parachuted into a safe seat or something, I would
Mr.
expect.
Speaker, as a secondary school maths teacher for 15 years, it is perhaps no surprise that my honourable friend brings an eye for detail, boundless energy and ability to handle these occasionally unruly benches.
Education.
And I thank him for yet another fantastic speech today.
Oh, hang on, I missed a joke.
Let me also thank the Leader of the Opposition for the usual warm and generous nature.
That's quite good, that's fair enough.
In difficult days, her input is always a ray of sunshine. I'm particularly getting tips from her on how to win friends. This is from the person, Mr. Speaker, who previously called us orcs and goons. Mr. Speaker, I am a gooner, and so, as usual, she is less than half right. But we do have one thing in common. Our parties both had tough results in the local elections last week. The difference is, she hasn't noticed.
No, well, and hang on a minute. I think that is funny, but
there's another difference, Mr. Speaker.
She did acknowledge,
we are in government, and they are no longer even the opposition. Mr. Speaker,
well, that's not strictly true
this
either, is
speech is a strike against the status quo that has failed working people.
I have to pick up Starmer on this. I think she did acknowledge her, the Conservative Party's poor electoral results, because she said the results, Nigel Farage, etc., is the symptom of the fact that everyone in the political class, including herself, which she said, has lost the electorate's trust or whatever. I mean, that was an acknowledgement of the results last week. Anyway, carry on, Keir.
It's a king's speech for the young people, whose gifts lie in their hands, who work hard, want their talents to be recognised, and just want an opportunity in their community. A king's speech for the children who, under the party opposite, had to go to school without breakfast, hungry, cold and tired, when they should be focused on their learning. And Mr. Speaker, it's a king's speech for the backbone of this country, for working people who worry about the cost of living. It is an agenda of radical reform across our major public services, an urgent, activist Labour government that tilts power back to workers, renters and the less fortunate. Gives voice to the working class and to all those that the status quo has repeatedly ignored and dismissed.
It's very rare for him to say the working class.
Where everyone, whatever their background, can go as far as their talent and effort takes them. Where people have a pride in where they live.
This could be said by John Major.
Lies ahead. That is the change of a Labour government, and this King's Speech delivers it. Mr. Speaker, we will deliver on economic security. And let me be clear, as the conflict in Iran unfolds, we are in a better position because of the action that my right honourable friend, the Chancellor, took last year, getting inflation down.
Still streaming for an hour now.
Mortgage costs down. And that's why we've been able to cut energy bills.
For those of you who are getting bored, and who can blame you, I'll probably be pausing when Keir sits down.
Mr. Speaker,
although I guess we've got Ed Davey next.
We don't retreat from our Labour values. We use them as our compass. Strength through fairness. So we will keep supporting those who need it most, including by creating a new national programme to redistribute surplus food, so that no one in this country needs to go hungry because of the conflict overseas. We also need to strengthen our sovereign capabilities.
That's a new one.
This country turns its back on our critical industries.
A national programme to redistribute surplus food sounds like a good policy to me. Of course, it's one that's been stolen from the anarchists.
They are over. And we've seen...
Someone made the point some years ago, governments are always stealing ideas from anarchists.
That, Mr. Speaker, with British Steel, and we will see it with new legislation to clean up our waterways, a failure in the water industry that has been going on for decades. It is a disgrace, and this Labour government will tackle it. And, Mr. Speaker, we will take that moral urgency to every part of our nation, with bills to increase the pace of change in our NHS, in law enforcement, in controlling our borders and more. Because whilst immigration is down, we need to do more. Whilst violent crime is down, it needs to be lower. Whilst NHS waiting lists are down, we must go further. A rewiring of the state so the working people of this country feel that it serves their interests. And, Mr. Speaker, we will also build in this country sovereign power in the industries of the future that will give us greater control in a world being reshaped by artificial intelligence. We will tear down the barriers to growth on planning, on faster infrastructure development, on business regulation, helping our great businesses, large and small. And, Mr. Speaker, we will, as a defining act of this government, rebuild our relationship with Europe. Britain back at the heart of a stronger Europe. That is good for growth. It will reduce the cost of living and strengthen our security. There is no good reason to oppose it. So for our economic security, for our Labour values, this government will act.
No specifics on that, but he's...
Prime Minister, in my part of the United Kingdom, Northern Ireland, we have been subjected now for some years to the humiliation of being governed by laws we don't make and can't change. And yet you, Prime Minister, now seem to want to impose that same denial of democracy in the whole United Kingdom by becoming a subservient rule taker from a foreign parliament. How is that in the interest of democracy?
Can I just say to him, he's been here long enough to not blame me for the problem. I am not you, Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker,
I am not you.
I thank him for his intervention. I'm very well aware of the tensions in Northern Ireland, the issues that have to be dealt with in relation to relations with the EU. But we have to face the fact that promises were made about Brexit, which were not true, which haven't borne fruit. It is in our economic interests, our national interests and defence interests to be closer to Europe. Of course we will navigate carefully taking on board the issues in Northern Ireland as he would expect. But it is in our interest to be closer to the EU. That is what we are doing and we will go further. Mr. Speaker, This moment also demands even greater radicalism on energy security. The British people should not have to pay more in their bills, and their living standards should not be hit because of a war that they did not vote for, that Britain is not involved in, happening thousands of miles away. That is a fundamental argument of this government, and the party opposite has no answer to it. Because for decades they ducked the long-term decisions to make our country, our energy and our economy stronger. So we are going to take control. We are going to declare Britain's energy independence. That does not mean, and it will not mean, that we turn off the taps in the North Sea. Oil and gas will be part of the mix for decades.
Part of the
But
max
we have
mix.
to move so much faster on clean energy.
I always like to point out
As we
parapraxes.
take control of our energy security. And Mr. Speaker, I will.
I'm very grateful to the Prime Minister for giving way. He talked about energy security, and he should know that Scotland currently exists in a state of energy surplus. We generate more electricity than we use, and he should know that under conditions of surplus, prices go down. But in Scotland, because we have to be stuck in the GB energy market, we pay for the scarcity of energy in England, but not just to the equal, to the detriment, higher prices for energy in Scotland. Can he explain why that dysfunction exists, and what's in this King's speech to fix it?
Well, what's in this King's speech to fix it is moving faster to our energy.
Quick look at the Tory benches there. Yeah, so Alicia Cairns. Kemi B seems to be listening fairly intently. Dave is having a chat with whoever this Conservative is. Data Cooper's on a phone. Or it looks like she's on her phone. Corbyn's still there. No doubt he'll get to take the mic at some point.
Independent, of course, also strengthen our country's defence security. That starts with the fundamentals and a recognition that it is not in the interests.
Oh, sorry, I just better see how he addressed the Scottish point.
Function exists, and what's in this King's speech to fix it?
Well, what's in this King's speech to fix it is moving faster to our energy independence. That is the way that we get off.
Just carrying on with the same point.
That is the way that we take control and reduce bills for people. Recognition.
Okay.
Position. That has always been my position, regardless of the pressure. A test of judgment which some in this House have failed.
I think he's talking about the war, isn't
with
he?
our commitment to NATO, the most successful defensive alliance in history. A proud achievement of this party that others would throw away. Today, faced with even greater threats, we need to strengthen NATO. We need to invest in our defence capabilities, and we need to strengthen the European element of NATO, because this nation is stronger when it stands with others, not just in word, but in deed. We are prepared to lead from the front, to bring nations together in this moment of danger, to support Ukraine, including through the coalition of the willing, and to act with our allies to reassure shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Because, Mr. Speaker, we're not merely content to manage the fallout of the Iran crisis. Instead, we're building an international effort to solve it and end the economic harm. And of course, Mr. Speaker, standing up for the defence and security of the United Kingdom depends on one thing above all else: ending 14 years of Tory defence austerity, with the biggest sustained investment since the Cold War. And we will go further with the measures outlined in the King's speech, with our upcoming defence investment plan. And, Mr. Speaker,
This is, of course, the plan that Kemi said was too late.
we will also deepen our partnerships to fire up our industries and make sure that British skill, British pride and British resolve are converted into British jobs in a stronger, fairer Britain. Yes, I will.
for the Prime Minister for giving way. He's used a lot of words about the Defence Investment Plan, which was, I think, due in the autumn of last year. So when's he going to sign it?
Yeah. I'll take no lectures from the party opposite. They hollowed out defence spend. Defence spend was 2.5% when they came into power, 2.3% when they left power. The investment plan is being finalised and will be published soon. But, Mr. Speaker, the strength is the foundation. That's the way we maintain our control, even in the storms of God. I will give way.
I mean, the Prime Minister quite rightly prioritised the defence of the country.
David Davis.
We have depended for decades on the courage, honour and loyalty of our soldiers. They, of course, some of our best units are now losing soldiers because this government is undermining them and allowing them to be prosecuted and persecuted for alleged crimes that were not carried out decades ago in the Northern Ireland bill.
Mr. Speaker, he knows very well that the provisions in Northern Ireland are intended to strike the right balance between what needs to be done and protecting our veterans. We are of course proud of all those that have served and do serve our country, but the legislation that was put forward by the last government was struck down, leaving no protection whatsoever. Because, Mr. Speaker, I'll make some progress. The way we change our country, rather make our progress.
Not sure who's trying to intervene. Oh, right, fair enough. He's giving way, is he?
He will know that in the recent Supreme Court Dillon judgment, the court ruled that our Legacy Act overwhelmingly was not incompatible with the Human Rights Act. He knows that. But he referenced the awful events in Golders Green, rightfully. And he defended the police officers against attacks on the leader of the Green Party, rightfully, and said they had to take split-second decisions. So if Northern Ireland veterans had to take split-second decisions to uphold the rule of law in Northern Ireland, what's the difference?
I have been in control rooms in Northern Ireland, watching decisions being taken on the use of fatal force. I'm well aware of the nature of the decisions that have to be taken, the circumstances in which they're taken, and how difficult those decisions are. That is not the same as the issues in this bill, and he knows it. Mr. Speaker, strength is the foundation, the way we maintain our control, even in the...
Interesting they cut to Hilary Benn there. I wonder why. Is he responsible for that bill or something?
Crisis. And more than anything, change means a Britain where every child can go as far as their talent or effort allows. It is a beautiful idea, one that I know is shared across the House. But we need, as representatives of this country, to see the country as a whole, because everyone has something to contribute to the success of this nation. And every child must succeed if we're to build a stronger, fairer Britain. That is how we tear down the status quo preserved by the party opposite, a status quo that failed working people, a status quo that left Britain's economy exposed, a status quo that made our country weak. There are some in this country, some even in this House, who would feed the frustration with that status quo into a politics of grievance and division. This King's speech sets a different course, a more hopeful course, a course that sees the conflict in Iran, a war on two fronts, not as something to wring our hands about, but as an opportunity we must take to shape our country's future, to end the status quo that has failed working people, to build a stronger, fairer Britain. That is what this King's speech delivers, and I commend it to the House.
Leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir David.
Oh.
May I start by giving my sincere thanks to His Majesty King Charles.
It's traditional to groan at the Liberal
On
Democrats.
behalf of all Liberal Democrats, while we still believe President Trump should not have been rewarded for insulting British soldiers and the Royal Navy, His Majesty was superb on that state visit. And can I join others in paying tribute to the honourable members for Bradford West and for Harlow for their accomplished speeches, proposing and seconding the Royal Address. Like myself, the Honourable Lady worked in a factory. For her, it was crisps. For me, it was pork pies. If we throw in the
I've
Honourable
worked
Member
in a
for the
pork pie
Isle of Wight
factory
West, who
too.
worked in the soft drinks industry, together we are a meal deal. But may I say, she is the real McCoy. The
Other
Honourable
crisps
Member
are
for Bradford
available.
West has already had an extraordinary life and career, talking from first-hand experience about how violence against women and homelessness touches millions of people. And we are in her debt for that, and for her bravery and courage. Can I also congratulate the Honourable Member for Harlow for his speech? I hear he recently ran the London Marathon. Now, the House might be shocked to know I have more experience with crisps than long-distance running. But I would add that it's a great pleasure to work with...
This speech isn't going anywhere. I'm going to end this live stream now. I hope that was illuminating to you. Farewell, gentle viewers.